So if you're in North America and you've looked into putting a hitch under your D5, you know that your options are pretty much limited to Japan or Australia and really expensive shipping. But there is an option locally available that pretty much bolts straight on, but there are a few caveats and, well, a few other things, but we'll talk about that after. For now, let me show you the hitch. This was 80 bucks. Then you can probably see why it was 80 bucks. So this was picked up used, and we're gonna have to do a little bit of cleanup on it to make it look a bit more presentable. But along with the hitch, if you're gonna tow, you're also going to need wiring, which means picking up one of these little kits. That means taking apart the back of the van a little bit and getting it wired in. I know, as soon as I say wiring, people get scared. Wiring is not hard, so if you just follow along, you'll be able to wire this up at home. But before we do that, let's get this hitch cleaned up because it's pretty disgusting. While the hitch is drying, let's get started on the trailer light wiring. There is a kit that we're going to need to do this, but before we can get started, we have to get this light off and gain access to the wires. Removal of the lights is exactly the same as the L400. We've got two screws on the inside here that need to be removed. Once the two screws are removed, there's two clips on the outside here. They just pull outwards, and the light comes out. Now we have access to the harness, which we can disconnect by depressing the latch in the back and pulling. Then of course we need to repeat it for the other side as well because we will need access to both lights for the signals. Now that you got the lights out, we can get to that kit that I was talking about, and that's this guy here. It's a taillight converter kit or a signal converter kit to convert your van's 3-wire system to a 2-wire for the trailer tail lights. This particular one is a CURT part number 56130. Now they are available powered and unpowered. We're going unpowered on this one because the trailer just uses LED tail lights, so we're not going to be drawing a whole lot of extra amperage, and this way we can save a couple bucks. So let's have a quick look at what comes in the box. Our signal converter with wires coming out of one end, which are going to go to our tail lights, green to our right, yellow to our left, red to stop signal, brown to running lights, and white to ground. And then the other side, this really long ribbon cable, goes to our 4-pin connector, which will connect to the trailer. And then of course we get some of these crappy little connectors as well. These aren't the greatest thing, but because the wiring is somewhat protected, we're going to use them anyway. And now we get to the part that seems to scare everybody. The fun part. Getting all of these wires connected to all these green wires. Don't worry, it's not as scary as it sounds. All you're gonna need is a test light and a marker and follow along. Now this part is the same for any vehicle, whether it's a Delica, L300, L400, doesn't matter. You're gonna track down the wires the exact same way. So first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna hop in the vehicle and we're gonna try find our running lights. So we're gonna turn on the light and then we're gonna head to the back of the vehicle again. Conveniently on the D5, there's a nice little bolt right here that we can hook our ground up to for our test light. And now we can start checking the plug. Now you might see some people will just take the test light and jam it right through the wire. That is a way to do it, but if you can avoid it, it's better because that just allows water to get in and can cause corrosion in the wire. So what we're gonna do is we're going to look at the end of the plug here and we're going to probe each one of these terminals one by one until we find the one that has power. I took too long and our automatic lights have turned off. So we know this pin here on the bottom right is our running lights. So we're just going to take our marker and we're just going to make a small R on the side of the plug. Now I'll move over to the other side and repeat the process. Next we're going to do similar for the brakes, but you're going to need to be able to depress the brake pedal. If you're doing this by yourself, you need to find a 2x4 or something to place between the brake pedal and the seat to push it down, or if you've got someone there to help you, just have them hold the brake down for you for a little bit. Unfortunately, I don't have assistance today, so we're just going to use this bar to hold the brake on. And then we're going to repeat the process with our test light until we find the illuminated pin. Now we'll make a small B on the plug. That's a terrible B. Now head back to the driver's cabin, take out our brake depressor, and turn on our 4-ways. Now we know what each of those wires does, we can start routing these wires through the back of the vehicle. So we're at the back left of the van, or the passenger side if your vehicle's right-hand drive, and that's where this box is going to have to go because most of our wires are very short, and this is all for the left side. This long wire is going to have to go all the way down underneath the van to the other side. So we'll start out with our 4-prong, and we're going to just feed it down through the hole in the bumper. point, we can go ahead and mount our control box. There's two-sided tape provided in the package. Make sure the area is cleaned off, and we can stick it in place. Now, they do recommend mounting this thing inside, but as long as it's in a protected area, you should be all right. And in here, we're not going to get much weather. To get the green wire to the other side, we're going to use a little bit of a trick here. Instead of trying to feed it through, pull the ribbon wire back up and tape the green wire to it. Now all we need to do is go underneath and pull the ribbon cable down. Our green wire is going to come with it. Now, of course, we're going to take this green wire and fish it all the way across from this side to that side of the van. And we're going to do that by going up underneath the bumper and on top of the 3 brackets that you'll see underneath. Unfortunately, the green wire in the curtain kit is too short to reach all the way across the van, so that means I'm going to have to extend it. Just make sure you connect it in a manner that's waterproof, because this area is going to be exposed to salt and rain and all kinds of crud. If you get water in the connector, it's going to corrode and it could cause you problems. I'm going to solder and shrink wrap it, but you could use something like a heat shrink butt splice as well. Now that we have all the wires run, we have an option. We can either connect the wires to the pigtail on the tail light, or we can connect it to the car harness itself. That's up to you. There's benefits and downfalls to doing both. By connecting it to the pigtail on the light, you're not tying into the car's harness itself and doing damage to a very expensive wiring harness, but if you ever have to take the light out, now, unfortunately that means it's on the wrong side of the plug and the light is permanently attached to the car, so you would have to cut the wires. That means we need to cut some of this tape off. Be very careful when you do this that you don't cut into the wires. We don't want to damage that insulation if we don't have to. So we have S for signal. That means our white and black wire is the wire that we need to tap into with our green. So we're going to cut off the extra, and don't bother stripping it because we're going to use the splice that's supplied with the kit. I'm not a huge fan of these. I would rather solder it, but we're going to do this assuming that not everybody has the equipment at home to solder. So these clips have 1 through hole and 1 dead-ended hole. That dead-ended hole is going to go onto our wire for the trailer kit, and then the side with the slot is going to go over top of our white and black wire. Finish it off with a pair of pliers. Make sure the metal clip is seated all the way in and your plastic clip is properly clipped in place. Now we'll come to the other side and repeat the process with the final wires. Because we have 3 wires going on here, we're going to go a little bit further back. We'll start with our red, which is our brake lamp. And again, we're going to look for the B for brake, and that corresponds to our red wire. Next, we'll do brown, which is running lights, R, so that'll be our yellow wire. And then finally, our yellow wire, which is signal, and that's going to go to green. So somebody woke up from his nap a little bit early and is fussy, so he's gonna have to help us finish this project off. All that's left now is the ground wire, which we're gonna separate from the harness and then run through the hole down here after we remove this plate. Now they do supply you with the self-tapping screw that you can just drill into the body, but ideally, if we don't have to drill into the body, I don't want to, simply because it's another area to cause rust. Now what's left is to reinstall the light. 2 bolts, 2 clips, and our plug. Now we just need to test our wiring. So we're gonna take our test light again, clip it onto the ground, and with our running lights and 4-ways on, we can check each one of these plugs. So we've got running lights, we have signal, and we have signal. Now let's check the brake light. So we'll put our brake pedal depressor back in and then come back, and both of our signals should be on solid. And now of course the trailer hitch, the part that you've been waiting for. What is this rusty old thing off of? Well, it's actually off of a 2010 Mitsubishi Outlander. And it does fit the Delica, almost. We're gonna have to do a few little modifications to make it bolt up properly, and then even once it's on, well, it does leave a little bit to be desired, and I'll show you that once we have it installed. But first, we need to do some modification. But don't forget to like and subscribe because we've got a way better hitch in the works. So the trailer hitch is going to bolt up to these factory bolt holes on the back of the Delica. We've got 3 bolt holes here, 3 on the other side. Now to access these, we first need to remove the factory recovery point. This will also show us what our first issue is. Bolt number 1 lines up, bolt number 2 lines up, bolt number 3 almost lines up. We're going to need to extend this hole in slightly. Now what I would normally do is just take my plasma cutter and buzz this out, but I'm guessing most of you probably don't have a plasma cutter at home, so I'm going to do it the long, tedious, miserable way with a file. I think we're there. Okay, now we try lifting in place. The one side has the big overhang, which you can slip over top of the exhaust and sort of hold it in place while you try and fit a bolt on this side. If you have a second person, this is a lot easier. I can drop this fair down and give myself a little bit more clearance. Oh look, now that we're done, help a ride. And there we go, Outlander hitch on a D5 Delica. Now, the problems. First off, look how far out this thing sticks. From the back of the bumper, we've got a good 15-20 centimeters sticking out, and it's unnecessary. We've got more space in the back. Secondly, because it sticks out so far and it sits so low, we've lost a lot of departure angle. So a van that spends most of its time on road or just on fairly smooth gravel road, this hitch will probably work just fine. However, a lot of these vans have been purchased to go off-road, and they're gonna need to go through water bars and other ditches and such, and a hitch being this low and this far out is going to cause a problem. So we do have a hitch in the works, which is gonna raise this up at least a good 4 inches and bring it in as well. Much more suitable for off-road, and it's gonna look a lot better than this big honkin' thing sticking out. For those that just need a hitch to move something around, the Outlander hitch is an option for your Delica. Anyways, hit that like and subscribe. Otherwise, we'll see you next time. Have a good one.